Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. I have with me Grayson Cam, who is the Media Director and Communications Director for the Hillsborough County Schools. Welcome aboard.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
I am so proud of our school system. I'm a big supporter of the schools. You guys do a great job under some really tough circumstances.
I appreciate that. On behalf of our teachers and our staff, I say thank you to that. I think folks in our community have a generally positive impression of our schools, but I don't know if they understand the level of which the results are coming out.
We're going to find out that very shortly. I want you to understand we're taping this just about 4 days prior to the election. I'm going to ask Grayson to give me some thoughts on if it passed, what can we do? If it doesn't pass, then where are they? How about that, Grayson?
Well, I appreciate the optimism, and we're optimistic too. We are in a situation in Hillsborough County, if you've seen in the news, where over many years we've been getting an inadequate level of funding.
How'd we get there?
How'd we get there?
Let's start with a history lesson.
So yeah, I'll give you a history of why we are where we are with not enough funding to fix all the air conditioning and things that needs to happen. So it's a 4-part story, and I'll start in the 1990s, mid-90s and 2000s. We had this tremendous growth spurt in Hillsborough County. If you lived here, you remember it. There were homes going up everywhere. Well, that meant more students coming, and you can't not put them in an adequate school. We need these kids to learn in a good environment. So we built in the 90s and 2000s more than 70 new schools. Riverview High School, Alonzo High School, all over the place.
Big buildings.
Big, substantial buildings that cost tens of millions of dollars each. Leonard High School. I mean, the list is long, and we're proud of them. They've delivered great education in those schools. But the reality is, at the time, the state doesn't provide any additional funding to build new schools to handle that growth. There are some impact fees that come from developers, but especially at the time, they were very low. So to build these schools and create the right learning environment, you have to do something. Well, we went out for a referendum, and we asked for a referendum. And when we did that, the message was voters were not willing to pass a referendum at the time. So the next thing we did was we looked at the fact that we couldn't increase taxes on our own. Our school board is not allowed to increase your taxes. So what do? Well, you need a house, and you don't have the money right now, but you will, so you take out a mortgage. And that's essentially what we did. We borrowed the money needed to build these schools. And so that means each year of our capital budget, which is what we're allowed to use to pay for maintenance and buildings, we take a chunk off the top to pay responsibly those mortgages. We still have about 10 years to go on those mortgages for those schools. And so what happens there is you shrink the amount of these capital dollars, which is the money that comes from property taxes, and you can only spend it on school facilities. So that gets shrunk.
The legislator kept shrinking it.
Correct.
Because that makes them look good. They're not paying, oh, you're paying less in taxes.
During the recession, the legislature, instead of giving us 2 mills, which is like $2 out of every 1,000 property value, they shrunk that to 1.5, and they took the other half mil up to Tallahassee and used it to fund their budget. The plan was to give that back.
Surprised?
The plan was to give that back, and it was never given back to local schools. So since that money was taken up to Tallahassee and spent through their budget, that's added up to more than $400 million that's not been available to spend here locally on our schools and our facilities. So when you have the mortgages we had to take out, and then you add in that reduction in the amount of money we have, but the bills keep coming. So what happens is, over time, you don't have quite enough money to take care of all the need. So the list keeps going even though you're out of money. So every year, a few more projects get added onto this deferred maintenance list. We were supposed to replace 24 air conditioners, but we only had the funding for 12. So they keep adding up. And over the course of the 8 years since those reductions have happened, we've added up to $1 billion in deferred maintenance.
Wow.
Work that we can't take care of. Because when you're talking about 280 schools, we were completing billions and billions of dollars, but there was still this growing amount that wasn't getting taken care of. And now that brings us to today. We have $1 billion in deferred maintenance. And then the other thing that's happened is we're growing again. Hillsborough County is poised. We had a study that was done a year or so ago that says in the next 15 years, Hillsborough County will need 38 new schools.
38
new schools to accommodate all the growth. And look, if kids are going to live in our community and they're going to grow up and serve our community, we want to deliver a great education for them, right? The kids in our classrooms are going to be the people you see in your doctor's office and your auto mechanic very soon. So we have to take care of those kids. So how do you do it?
I'd rather educate them, by the way, than house them in jails. I'd rather they had a basic education. I think that it's true that less than a 6th grade reading level in most prisons. If you could teach those people to be able to read, maybe they could find jobs and not be in those prisons.
Yeah, and it's our job. We're really proud of how we link up with folks like Hillsborough Community College and UCF and other groups to make sure that kids don't just come out with a diploma, they come out with a plan. They come out, in fact, we have an English language and a Spanish language program where we take kids, especially if like their parents, imagine you're ready to go to college, you grew up here, your parents are citizens, everybody's good, but your parents' English is their second language, they're not so great. How do you find a direction? Well, we can work with your parents in Spanish and you in English and help, okay, you're going to go on to this training program and you're going to have a killer career as an electrician. And we path your future out. We do that for tons of kids. And so we build those structures and we take care of helping kids find their best possible future. But you can only do it if you have the facilities and the technology to do it. So you can imagine if we've been in a place where we can't even replace all the air conditioners we need because of the funding, how do you think we've been doing at keeping every classroom and workshop up to the careers of the future? I mean, some of these schools, you would walk in, if you went to high school in Hillsborough County in the 70s or 80s, you walk into one of these tech or shop classrooms and it'll look a lot like it did when you were a student. And that's not what we need to get kids ready for the challenges of the future. So when you loop all that together, you come up to where we are today, which is state funding that's 44th in the country out of 50 states. Every neighboring county.
Really? 44th out of 50?
Yeah, 44th out of 50.
And we're a wealthy state.
We are. And we have bright people in Florida who care about schools. But the priorities that the legislature lays out put us in this spot, and we're 44th. And if it feels like it wasn't always like this, it wasn't. In 1998, 20 years ago, we were 27th, and now we're 44th. So that number keeps slipping, and it creates this inadequate way to put the money behind it. So one way to answer that is local school districts can step up and pass their own voter-supported tax referendum. And every neighboring county has done that.
And I guess in interest of full disclosure, I said this is being taped before the election, and I voted for the school tax. So if you feel like I'm slanted one way or the other on this, yes, I'm for the kids.
Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And when you look at, some folks are concerned about our financial house being in order, and we've turned around a $126 million deficit. We've eliminated 1,900 positions. We've done a lot of efficiency efforts to bring our operating budget in line so people can have faith that we're going to spend this money wisely. But this is really a different bucket of money. This is that capital money, the facilities money that we need.
And you can't always shift monies.
No, there's actually some very clear lines about where the money comes from and how we can spend it. It's very strict in a lot of ways. So this is about that facility money that I just explained why we are where we are. Every neighboring county around us and every county on the I-4 corridor from Volusia all the way to Pinellas, except ours, has a substantial local either sales or property tax to provide some extra support for schools that doesn't come from every single one. Volusia, Seminole, Osceola, Orange County is the clearest example for me. So right now, Hillsborough County has the only additional funding we get comes from the community investment tax, which was passed 22 years ago to build Raymond James Stadium and sponsor some local government efforts. That expires in 8 years, and we get an eighth of a penny from that. It looks like a little slice of pizza. We get an eighth of a penny. That's about $32 million a year added to our budget. Most of that was also mortgaged to build schools in the past. So we get $32 million. Orange County, which is about the same size as us, growing county, competes with us for jobs. If you're looking to bring your business to Florida and you're looking at Central Florida, you are looking at both of those communities. Orange County has a half-penny sales tax, and they have a full mill property tax that goes to support their schools. The sales tax can be used for facilities. The property tax can be used for your operating money, teacher pay, classroom materials, fuel for school buses, all these things. So they have an additional half penny and a full mill. When you compare our $32 million a year, their extra local support brings in $373 million a year in additional money to their schools. So every 3 years, Orange County puts in $1 billion more than we do into their schools. And so while we are actually right on par with them in terms of academic performance and everything else, we're definitely at a pivot point. where if we don't create that same kind of investment, if we don't look at, in Hillsborough County, Polk County has a half a penny sales tax. Pasco County has 45% of a penny. Manatee has, like Orange County, they have a half penny and a mill. And then Pinellas has a half mill property tax. So all our neighbors, actually every county from Hernando to Sarasota, except for Hillsborough, has something more than that eighth of a penny. Again, so it's not just our financial situation. It's the funding setup and the way it comes down from Tallahassee, the way it's been, the priority set by the legislature have us in this position. And so if we need to continue to deliver for these kids, which again are the people who are going to be building our community in the future, taking care of you and me, this is the kind of investment that communities make. I mean, there's not a lot of communities where you go around and say, boy, oh boy, I'm really disappointed we have a great education system. You don't hear people say that. You don't hear people say that because it delivers.
We did have some great people. Earl Leonard, as a superintendent, this guy is one of the finest gentlemen I ever met, excuse me. And to be honest with you, Jeff Eakins seems to be in the same pattern as Earl Leonard.
He'll be flattered to hear you say that.
He's not presumptive. He just works hard. It's for the kids.
Yep.
And I'm hoping to see a resurgence of what we saw with Dr. Leonard be with Jeff Eakins.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll pass that along to the superintendent. He'll be very proud to hear that. He really respects Dr. Leonard.
I want to get him on the show one of these days, too.
Absolutely. No, I'm on board.
Come celebrate the tax.
I would love, that would be a great reason to have him on. Interesting point about Dr. Leonard. Part of this sales tax, we have a citizen oversight committee, so that people who are voting and know that we're going to be responsible with this money. And Dr. Leonard is on that oversight committee. He was superintendent for a decade. He also was our supervisor of elections. So he's a highly respected individual. We've got Sheriff Chronister, who's on that panel. Betty Castor, who's former state commissioner of education and USF president, is on there. So we've got Democrats and Republicans. We have people from a wide range of geographic and ethnic backgrounds all on there, all making sure that we follow the plan we lay out and we spend this money correctly, because we want every dollar raised to do the things that it's limited to, which are air conditioning and maintenance, leaky roofs, classroom technology, safety and security, and we're going to spend about 14%, so less than $1 out of every $8, but we are going to spend a slice of that on building 4 new schools to relieve overcrowding. You mentioned Leonard High School, which is named after Dr. Leonard. When that school opened, and that's down in the south part of the county, when that school opened, it was our smallest high school. It now has more than 3,000 students.
Really?
It is now our largest high school in just a span of a few years.
And if you look at South County, you get into Waimama, which used to be considered a migrant camp.
Yeah.
It's now
There's
homes
a dot on
of
a map.
$500,000 and more.
And so we have a responsibility to make sure those kids get a great education, just like your kids and my kids. And our community needs that, right? Good schools mean higher property values. They mean companies that want to bring great jobs say, I can't wait to get there, instead of, I'm going to move down the street. All those things come because of a quality education system. So we have to deliver that for these students. And that's, we're working very, very hard as your school system to make that happen. But without the funding support, you just can't, build the schools and keep the classrooms where they need to be to provide that level of education.
Let's stay positive and hope that happens.
Yeah.
If, and we hope it is, if it passes, what are you going to do with the money? Where does the money start going?
So we have a specific list of 1,785 specific school improvement projects. At least $500,000 will be invested at every school. Oh yes, it's yes. We'll find places. Yeah, we've laid it out and laid out basically every dollar and how we're going to spend it. We have a needs list. We have a maintenance plan. The challenge was, some of these things were so far off, when are you going to get to it? And now we'll have the funds to get those things done. We're going to invest $25 million in classroom technology to really help get those, really for career and workforce, to make sure that when you sit down and are in a class and you're going to learn to be electrician, biomedical engineer, whatever it is, you actually have the tools that will get you ready for that career, instead of just, dusty old books.
I've always been impressed with the South County unit.
Yeah,
down
we have
there.
South County Career Center.
Yeah,
Does incredible work.
That's fabulous. Somebody ought to open it up and have a day for everybody to go down and look at that, because it's a fabulous place.
Culinary programs down there, building construction programs. These are where we take students who maybe didn't have a clear plan, right? Or don't have the money to go to a private culinary school to teach them this. So we take them in, we take their passion, and we turn it into a career. We help them give back to the community and feed their families. And we're really proud of that. In fact, you mentioned that Tampa Bay Technical High School, which is a high school that's made up of programs like that, has our highest graduation rate of all our high schools.
Wow.
It does, because the kids love coming to school. They
You know,
love it.
Speaking of that, one of the people you had as principal down there, John, right now I'm drawing a blank on his name,
Sure.
his last name, but we went down there several times and did some shows with it.
Awesome.
And his biggest problem was the students did not want to leave. He had kids that hated school, like I did. I walked in backwards, so I didn't have to see it till I got there. But John said, when they got to be seniors, they'd be flunking tests.
Just so they could hang around and keep doing the cool stuff they love, huh?
Yeah. He said he'd have to sit him down at his desk and say, no, you can't do this. I mean, these are kids that didn't want to be there and are still there because they wanted to be there. So there's got to be something good about those career programs.
Yeah, we try to capture that magic. We try to get what it is about your personal passion that gets you to want to be there. And look, there's some kids, their personal passion is calculus, and calculus will keep them coming back. And for you, that's great. It wasn't me.
No.
But for some, it's that building trades program or that science research program, and that turns into a career. Because guess what you just accidentally found? You accidentally found something that you can make a living on doing what you love for the next 35 or 40 years. And that is the magic.
Somebody once said we have to educate both our philosophers and our plumbers. If we don't, neither our philosophy nor our pipes will hold water.
That's very wise.
We need to do that. We need to keep these kids engaged, excited, and wanting to come to school rather than dropping out and sitting on a street corner.
I think your viewers will be really encouraged to know, and you started off the program by mentioning that we have gotten a lot of academic success, and I want your viewers to know one of the things we've had a lot of success with is our graduation rate. Our high school graduation rate just set an all-time record, and we're expecting new figures to come in the next month or so where we expect it to climb again. That math means that more kids are getting over that hump and getting a diploma. The lifetime earnings difference for somebody who has a high school diploma versus somebody who doesn't is $380,000. So when you add that up with all these new graduates that otherwise would not have graduated before, we're talking about an impact in our community of $670 million. So we're creating that stronger future with our teachers and our students. I mean, our students have to apply themselves. Their families have to get involved, but we're making it happen for them. And then the other thing that I think we're really proud of is what are called the achievement gaps are closing. You know, you could see the line going here, but then a line for one minority group going here or not going here. All our minority groups, Black students, Asian students, Hispanic students, also English language learners, kids with disabilities, all of those rates are rising faster than our overall rate, which means that gap is closing. So kids from every background, students from every background are getting access to the kind of life-changing. Yes, we have adult students too.
I have a friend whose parents came from Venezuela and were in Tampa, and they went to one of the schools, I forget, but they went 4 days a week.
Yes.
To English classes. And now both of them have great jobs. After about a year's time, one was an engineer to start with, but at least now he has the capability in English to make the job work.
Right, and he's contributing to his family, he's contributing to our community. We're so proud. We have so many fascinating programs in Hillsborough County Public Schools that you wouldn't know existed, but man, you're so glad they're there. We have a hospital and homebound program. If you have a child who's got an illness and they can't go to school regularly, we don't let them just fall behind. We will send folks to them, we'll prepare curriculum for them so they can learn, and then when they recover, they're able to rejoin the world right where they should be. That's a program that just warms my heart that we're doing. And so there's things like that all over the place we're doing to deliver results for the community. And we're really proud of what we do. And I will say this, this effort around the referendum has shown me and our superintendent and so many of us in ways that we never knew were possible how much our community supports our public schools. It's been humbling and amazing. It really has.
Well, I'd like to talk about what happens if that failed. Let's hope it doesn't.
We can.
But you know, the thing is, if it failed and you voted the other way, don't call a school board and whine that your kids aren't getting air conditioning because it was your fault. But what other things could happen?
Well, the truth is there's not really a plan B. Right now, today, we have 40 schools of our 230 that are overdue for air conditioning replacements. We have 20 schools that are overdue for new 40 out of our 230. And we have 20 that are overdue for roof replacements. And there's just not funding available to tackle that. So we're going to continue to have to sort of pick our priorities, make choices. Well, if we fix this, then we can't fix that. And that's what we're looking at for a long time. We are planning to go back to the voters in the future to sort of ask again and try to make our case more clearly so people can understand what our situation is. But the truth is there's not a plan B. The other thing is, and this is true no matter what happens with the referendum, if folks out there value public education, they really need to talk to their lawmakers. They need to talk to the folks in Tallahassee. This isn't a partisan issue, right?
No.
You talk to everybody who's there and say, this is what my priority is. I think your priority should match mine. And if enough people vote with education in mind and talk with education in mind, it will become top of mind for our lawmakers, and that's what we need. Florida right now is per student $4,000 below the national average. We're $4,000 per student below them.
Wow.
We're about $7,000.
And we're 44th.
We're 44th in education funding. So that puts us in a spot. And yeah, we have a lower cost of living than some states, but not that much lower. I mean, we're still trailing way behind other states. And so if we want to continue to have Florida be the great state that I grew up in and love living in, we have to continue to educate our children. There's no alternative. Anything you love about Florida, anything you love depends on smart, well-prepared children to enter the workforce and to become adults. If you love low cost of living, if we don't educate our kids, we can't keep the economy humming like we want to. If you love the beaches, well, great. We need kids to be environmental scientists. Right. We need kids to be beach patrols.
Get rid of that red tide.
Right. USF is doing research right now to try to fix that problem. And if we don't produce those students who are capable of doing that, it's not going to change.
And one of those students might now be in the 10th grade, 11th grade, that can make that difference.
It really can. And so, yeah, whatever you love about Florida, it hinges on bright kids.
Here.
Yeah. If you love the growth and you love that, it's honestly, if you love Florida being, well, but if you love Florida being on the cutting edge and having the things you love, if you love being able to go to a performing arts center because we're a high-flying place, yes.
We want Moffats.
Yes.
We want places like that can give us good jobs that pay good money, even Amazon.
Absolutely.
They're